I refused to request a price menu for her in fancy French bistro. Now she's threatening to walk out. I'm a 27-year-old guy, second-generation French-American, whose family still lives back in France, so I make it a point to fly home once or twice a year. For the past 2 years I've been dating a 25-year-old American woman who doesn't speak a word of French. This all went down last winter during our annual Christmas trip to visit my relatives in Paris. My family has roots in southwest France, but we always start in Paris so my girlfriend could experience the city's holiday magic. She was excited to dine at a Michelin-starred restaurant, and I went along. I make good money, so splurging on a special meal wasn't an issue. We booked our table months in advance at a top-tier spot that enforces both a strict dress code and, as it turned out, some old-school customs. On arrival, the maitre d' whisked away our coats, we sat in a gorgeous dining room, and everything felt upscale yet welcoming. When the waiter handed us menus, I naturally took the lead. My girlfriend couldn't read French, so I was translating each dish for her. While pointing out a dessert to her, I noticed my menu listed prices next to every item, but hers did not, and it completely slipped my mind that this was a tradition. She looked up, clearly annoyed, and asked why I got the price list, but she didn't, calling it a sexist practice that she found absurd. I explained it's an old-fashioned French custom at high-end places. Women's menus often omit prices, and reminded her we shouldn't have been surprised if she was bothered by it. She demanded I ask the waiter for a menu with prices for her, or she'd storm out and never come back. I refused, saying we already knew the costs and I didn't want to make a scene in front of other diners. This was meant to be a special night, after all. Calling what I saw as her bluff, I told her if she really felt that strongly, she was free to leave, but she stayed silent and gave me the cold shoulder through an otherwise delicious meal. It's been several months since we got back home, but she brings this up non-stop, accusing me of sexism and comparing me to every jerk she's ever known. I've started wondering if I was unreasonable to uphold what I thought was just restaurant etiquette. Could standing my ground here really be the line that ends us? When old traditions clash with modern expectations, sometimes the simplest request can unravel everything. So, Reddit, am I the bad one for refusing to get her a menu with prices at a fancy French restaurant? Mom wanted to skip ahead because of my scars. You'll be shocked how I responded. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and aside from my face, neck, and back, every inch of my body is covered in burn scars from a house fire when I was 9. I was lucky to survive, but the memory still haunts me. Now that it's March and the weather has finally warmed up, I decided to wear a sweatshirt and shorts for a quick trip to the grocery store. As I walked through the park on my way, a few people gave me curious glances, which I've grown used to over the years. At the store, I grabbed what I needed and joined the long checkout line. Noticing a mom and her little boy behind me, I braced for the usual stares, and sure enough, the kid kept staring until he started crying. Before I could say anything, his mom patted my shoulder and asked if she could cut in front of me so he wouldn't have to look at my deformed leg and prosthetic, she explained. I was taken aback and politely told her I couldn't let anyone jump ahead of me, reminding her that visible differences shouldn't warrant special treatment. When my turn finally came, I heard her call me a bad for not accommodating her child's discomfort. Verdict: am I the bad here? Absolutely not. You get 0 out of 5 bads. This was a textbook case of an entitled parent mistaking kindness for weakness. Sometimes, standing your ground means embracing everything that makes you unique, scars and all. Now, we dive into a family secret that's been hidden for years until one daughter decides it's time for the truth to come out, no matter the cost. Why I exposed my mom's secret family, the shocking truth. When I was 16, my mom abruptly walked out on us without a word, and for years we had no idea where she'd gone. My brothers and I ended up being raised by our dad and uncle, and I basically stepped into the role of second mom before I was ready. I started seeing a therapist to cope and, over time, I began to heal and make real progress. Recently, while reconnecting with extended family on Facebook, I stumbled onto a profile that looked just like her, same first name and photos, only with a different last name. As I dug deeper, I realized she'd remarried and had quietly built a new family with 5 kids between the ages of 2 and 10. My husband advised me to let it go, but anger and disbelief drove me to find her husband's profile and reach out. I sent him a message revealing that his wife had 5 other children, my siblings, she'd abandoned long ago. His response was shock and anger at me, not at her, which only amplified my frustration. To me, it wasn't just a personal crusade, it was a matter of righting a massive wrong and demanding accountability. I believed he deserved to know the full story of the woman he'd married, and that my siblings and I deserved acknowledgement. My brothers and even my husband started calling me the bad, insisting I crossed a line and invaded her privacy. Friends in the comments argued I had every right to expose her, since she'd effectively erased us from her life. I couldn't shake the feeling that my mom needed to face the consequences of walking away and creating new lives without us. On one hand, I felt proud for standing up for my siblings and myself, on the other, I worried I'd torn down any chance of reconciliation. So, here I am, did I do the right thing by unmasking her secret family, or did I become the bad in my own story? Some secrets are buried deep, but when they finally surface, the damage is impossible to ignore. Next, we move from hidden families to hidden truths. Imagine discovering you've been lied to your entire life about something as basic as food. This one's wild. My mom lied about my allergies for years, you won't believe why. I'm 20, my parents are in their 50s, and for as long as I can remember they told me I was allergic to dairy, wheat flour, gluten, and legumes, so they completely purged our home of all of it. While my classmates poured cereal for breakfast, I was eating fish and tangy pickled veggies. When other kids unwrapped Lunchables, I was biting into grilled chicken or fish alongside sweet potatoes. And at birthday parties, everyone else had cake, I was left with just an apple. I didn't question any of it until a couple months ago, when I showed up at my aunt's house for my birthday. She'd gone out of her way to bake brownies with almond flour to dodge all my supposed allergies. I dove right in, thinking nothing of it, until my aunt suddenly flipped out and demanded to know which plate mine came from. I pointed to my plate, and she sprang up, telling me to grab my EpiPen. I froze, terrified, because I'd never accidentally eaten flour before. Then I noticed my mom calming my aunt down. She casually explained that she'd swapped the plates, so I had actually eaten the allergy-safe brownies. That struck me as bizarre. Why on earth would she swap them? It made no sense. I brushed it off at first, but the doubt nagged at me for a week until I finally booked an allergy test. The skin prick screening came back completely clear, no reactions to any of the foods I'd been told to avoid. A follow-up blood test confirmed it. I have zero intolerance to dairy, wheat, gluten, or legumes. I was furious, called my mom, and she admitted the truth. She'd lied all those years so I'd stick to a Paleolithic diet and steer clear of temptations. Now I've gone no contact with them and I'm left wondering, am I really the bad here for cutting ties after uncovering a lifetime of deception? Trust is hard to rebuild when it's shattered by the very people who are supposed to protect you. Now imagine living in a house full of siblings, so many, you can barely breathe. What do you do when your parents' dreams start suffocating your own? I told my mom to scrap her dream of 15 kids, am I the bad? I'm a 16-year-old guy living in a 4-bedroom house with my parents and 11 siblings, all cramped together with barely any privacy. My parents routinely hand off most of the childcare to us older kids while they kick back watching TV, leaving me with hardly any time for friends or homework. Don't get me wrong, I get that they need breaks, but they're taking them so often that I feel like I've lost my entire teenage life. Just last night, after Mom told me to put my 2 3-year-old siblings to bed, I told her I needed to study and she could handle it herself. She snapped back that it's my responsibility as an older child, essentially putting me on a never-ending babysitting shift. Frustrated, I blurted out that she shouldn't be having a dozen kids in the first place and that she should give up her plan for 15 because it's robbing the younger ones of a real childhood. I realized then that it was her decision to keep expanding the family, and I shouldn't have to foot the bill for her choices. Honestly, I think my folks are being really selfish dreaming up more kids when they can't even give us the time or space we deserve. After I stormed off, I started second-guessing myself. Was I way out of line for calling her out like that? So here I am, asking you straight, am I the bad for telling my mom to drop her 15-kid fantasy? Sometimes, enough is enough. Even family dreams have to meet the reality of what you can handle. Now, we switch gears to a story of surveillance and secrets. What happens when you track your own teenager and find out way more than you expected? I spied on my teen with a secret phone and everything exploded. I wondered if I'd crossed a line by hiding a backup iPhone in my 16-year-old daughter's car so I could always track where she was driving. Sure enough, My little secret got exposed, but I figure it gives me a solid reason to bring back the stricter phone rules I had before. At 16, she finally has her own phone with far fewer parental controls than she used to. I still set sensible boundaries. She can't disable location sharing, must pick up my calls or messages promptly when she's not in school or practice, and there's no dead battery excuse. Knowing how cunning teens can be, I added a safety net, an older iPhone on our family plan that I quietly stashed somewhere in her car. That phone stays fully charged and on silent so I can discreetly check her whereabouts at any time. Last weekend she said she was heading over to her friend Thomas's place to prep for an academic competition and a speech contest. When I compared the locations on her phone and my hidden device, they both showed Thomas's address. At first, everything seemed normal. But after dinner, her phone still pinged Thomas's house while the secret iPhone lit up in the downtown bar district. I called her, and she swore up and down that everything was fine and the car was right there with her. Doubting her, I drove to the spot where my covert phone was showing up, and sure enough, there was my car parked amid the nightlife. I phoned Thomas's dad. His parents are divorced and his mom was working a late shift, and asked if he could meet me there. While waiting, I showed photos of my daughter and Thomas to bar bouncers, asking if they'd seen them try slipping in. One of the bouncers admitted he'd turned them away earlier for attempting to use fake IDs. I was livid. I wandered the block until I spotted them tucked inside a 24-hour cafe. When Thomas's dad arrived, we went in together and collected our kids. Back at home, my daughter finally came clean. They tried sneaking into a club so Thomas, who's not out to his family, could have a night out. She was furious that I'd outed him to his dad, but honestly, I can't trust her or Thomas after what they pulled. Stricter rules are definitely on the way. She thinks I'm the worst, but if I hadn't hidden that phone, I'd never have uncovered their midnight escapade under the guise of studying. Yes, I invaded their privacy, but to me, catching their little stunt justified it. When secrets come to light, sometimes you lose more than just trust, you lose your connection. Next, we head into family dynamics where showing love for one person might mean losing it from another. This next one is all about balance, and when it's completely lost. I spoiled my wife and my kids think I'm the bad. I've been happily married to Hannah for 18 years and we share 2 daughters, but lately I've realized I might be going overboard doting on my wife at my kids' expense. Ever since our 14-year-old Madison clashed with Hannah over Madison's newly dyed hair and self-styled bangs, I found myself instinctively taking Hannah's side, grounding Madison for her comments and then retreating upstairs to soothe my wife's tears with an hour-long foot massage. I even told the girls to fend for themselves at dinner, knowing Hannah always cooks but willing to let my daughter miss out so I could comfort my wife in private. Watching Madison's frustration grow as she accused me of coddling her mom made me pause. I love Hannah more than anything, but I can't ignore that I prioritized her feelings over giving my daughter the support she needs. My 16-year-old hasn't taken sides yet, but I worry they'll start resenting me for showing such clear favoritism. Realizing I've become the family's good husband at the cost of being an attentive father is uncomfortable, but I also feel torn between fostering my marriage and being fair to our kids. Now I'm left wondering if I should dial back the pampering. I want to be the rock my wife deserves, but I also owe my daughters a balanced home where both of them feel heard and cared for. So here I am, questioning whether my efforts to be a stand-up husband have crossed the line into being the family's resident bad. Sometimes, caring too much for one person can mean neglecting the ones who need you most. Now, imagine watching your teenage daughter turn her boyfriend into a personal ATM and the person encouraging it? Her own mother. This next one? It's as wild as it sounds. My wife's cute relationship advice is turning our teen into an ATM. After 18 years of marriage, I've got a 16-year-old daughter who's been seeing a shy, sweet kid for the last few months. He's respectful, nervous around her, and keeps confessing he thinks she's way out of his league. My wife usually champions independence and equality, values we both encouraged as we raised our daughter to stand on her own 2 feet. Lately, though, she's been telling our daughter things like, "Isn't it adorable when a guy picks up the entire tab?" or "Don't even stress about the bill, honey, he can cover it, and if he truly cares, he'll pay for everything." I tried to level the playing field by explaining that in any partnership, both people should chip in. If someone invites you out, they might treat, but if you plan it together, you split the cost. Despite that, our daughter started talking like her boyfriend's just a walking wallet, planning what she'll have him buy or boasting about gift cards he's picked up thanks to her mom's pep talks. Worried it's teaching her to view relationships as ATMs, I pulled my wife aside, and she waved it off as a harmless rite of passage, saying it's cute our daughter feels spoiled. I told her I feared this was undermining respect and mutual care, not just a bit of harmless fun. That's when she blew up and started calling me a bad. Now I'm left wondering, did I overstep by pushing back on my wife's cute advice, or did she cross a line that's setting our daughter up with the wrong expectations? Sometimes, the lessons we teach aren't the ones we intend, and they can come back to haunt us. Now, imagine buying 2 cases of beer for a party you're not even invited to. This one's all about expectations, and the harsh truth that sometimes people just use you. I bought the beer, she ghosted me, you'll never guess what happened next. I'm a 18-year-old guy who thought I was about to hang out with friends, only to end up stranded with 2 cases of beer in my hands and nowhere to go. It all started when a girl I'd had a crush on since high school texted me out of the blue, asking if I could grab beer for her get-together. Since I'm just a month older, I could buy it for the group of friends who were all underage. That evening at 7 p.m. she rolled up to my house, we drove to the liquor store, and I patiently asked which brew she wanted. When she said Budweiser, I swallowed my disappointment. Hey, it was her party, and picked up 2 24-packs like a good sport. Back in the car I said, let's go party, but she stayed stone silent, turning the wheels back toward my neighborhood. My heart sank when she pulled up in front of my house. She never planned to invite me in. She leaned over to plant a quick kiss on my cheek, whispered thanks, and that was it. I sat there for a beat, beer in hand, then asked, so, not coming in? She feigned surprise and said she never meant to invite me over. I felt my face flush with embarrassment as I trudged to my front door, beer in tow. Moments later she hopped out, desperately tried to backtrack, and begged me to join the party after all, but I told her that what she did was one of the most humiliating things I've ever experienced. I slammed my door a bit harder than I intended, stomped back to my room, and opened the first bottle. Now I'm sipping on what tastes like regret and bad beer, and I'm fielding texts from her and her friends calling me a jerk. I'm not proud of how I handled it, but I still wonder, did I deserve this level of ghosting after doing what she asked? Sometimes, doing someone a favor doesn't earn you a seat at the table, it just makes you a stepping stone. Next up, we head into the office, where one offhand comment about a coworker goes way too far. This next one? It's brutal. I told my coworker nobody would notice if he vanished, and it blew up. I work at a company of about 100 people, with my department making up roughly 30 of us on the same team. There's this guy, Levi, around 55, and honestly he's just not the friendliest person in the office. He's constantly firing off sarcastic jabs at coworkers, openly disdains anyone who's struggling financially, and insists poverty is purely a personal failing. On top of that, he makes sexist remarks about women and racist quips about non-white colleagues, which just makes everyone uneasy. Most people actively avoid sitting near him at meetings or eating next to him in the break room. We've filed more complaints than I can count, but management never does anything, probably because he logs insane hours without ever asking for overtime pay since he's got nowhere else to be, as he puts it. He's single, childless, and has admitted he doesn't really have friends outside of work and a handful of distant relatives. I'd feel sorry for him if he weren't so habitually unkind. Then there's Sarah, a teammate in her early 30s who lost her mom to cancer about 2 months ago, and it's still hitting her hard. Though I'm not super close to Sarah, everyone knows she still breaks down now and then when she remembers her loss. Yesterday, she was visibly upset at her desk when Levi sneered, "Get over it, everyone dies eventually," and told her she was bringing everyone down and needed to act professional. I don't think he meant for her to hear, but she did, and she stormed out for about 20 minutes to collect herself. I'd had it, so I walked over, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "Honestly, you'd disappear tomorrow and nobody would even notice," then turned and left before he could fire back. Since then, we've been giving each other the cold shoulder in the office. People are split, some say I went too far, others think Levi got exactly what he deserved. Am I the bad? Sometimes, a few harsh words reveal way more than you ever intended, and you can't take them back. Finally, we wrap up with a story of revenge gone wrong. When you hide something important, sometimes the consequences are bigger than you ever imagined. I hid my roommate's laptop and now he's threatening charges. I know the title might sound harsh, but hear me out. I'm a first-year college student and everything was going smoothly except for my roommate's constant mess. From day one, his side of the apartment looked like a tornado hit it, clothes piled everywhere, dirty dishes stacked high, and a bathroom that smelled like a biohazard. We each pay the same rent, so I shouldn't have to wash his plates, yet he never cleaned up until I flat out refused to keep doing it for him. I even had to explain, almost like I was talking to a kid, why living in squalor was a bad idea, but he just ignored me and kept leaving chaos behind. Usually I'm out at the library, the gym, or with friends and my girlfriend, but when circumstances forced me to stay home, I turned to jump roping for 10 to 15 minutes of cardio. 2 days ago, he blew up at me for the noise and told me to find something quieter, even though I've tolerated plenty of things that bother him. The next day, I went to grab my jump rope, and it was gone. When I asked, he admitted he'd hidden it until he finished studying because I was distracting him. Frustrated, I decided to teach him a lesson. I stashed his laptop somewhere safe and told him he'd get it back after my workout. He warned that he has an online exam coming up and needs the laptop to study, but after all the times I held my tongue, I wasn't budging. When I finally finished exercising and went to return it, the laptop had vanished. I'm convinced someone swiped it while I was out. Now he's threatening to press charges even though he has no proof, and I'm left wondering, did I go too far, or did he cross the line first? Sometimes, setting boundaries means facing the consequences. Whether it's standing up to entitled strangers, revealing hidden secrets, or fighting for your own dreams, today's stories prove that courage often comes at a cost. Which story hit you the hardest? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.